Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can see us. Everyone's just joining me on Zoom. Good evening. Hi, everyone. Just getting everything organized. I think we are live, which is awesome. And I've just closed everything down. Sorry, just one moment. There we go. Hi, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm so excited to see you all here. I'd just like to start by welcoming you to our second Creative Conversations at Loki Loves Inktober. And I have the lovely Cathy with me co-hosting tonight, taking care of all the things in the background because she is absolutely amazing. And we also have a fantastic guest tonight with us as well. So I'll jump into everything in just a moment. The art that's been oh, so sorry.
No, just saying, I'm just making sure we're going live on both the pages. So I'll be there in 1 second, but you go for it.
Thank you, Han. I was just saying that I have been absolutely blown away by the art coming through this week. I thought our first week was phenomenal, but this week it's gone the extra level. And what I've really enjoyed, because I don't actually know much about estuaries, or not as much as I thought I knew, is how much I'm learning from everybody's posts as well. So thank you so much for sharing your beautiful artworks. I've absolutely loved them. There's been some really hard prompts and everyone's done such a good job. So thank you so much for sharing them and sharing your passion for nature with all of your followers in your community as well. I think we're all set up, so let's get started. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming here and joining us tonight, this evening. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the many lands in which we're joining from today. I'm joining from the Coorong people of the Coorong Nation, and I pay my respects to the elders past and present. If you know which land you're tuning in from today, we'd love for you to share it in the chat, and would also like to extend our respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that may be joining us today. So welcome to our second Creative Conversation session, and each week, I can't say that word, for Loki Loves Inktober, celebrating shorebirds and wetlands and the amazing 31-day art challenge that we're almost halfway through. For those of you that didn't join us last week, this is our second of 4 events, and we'll be running across Inktober to dive deeper into the science behind our weekly themes while we draw one of the prompts together. I'll put up what today's prompt is in the window soon, so you'll be able to have a draw along as we're all chatting. So sorry. Clear my throat. There we go. So each week we're going to start off with a bit of discussion on today's prompt with both the artist and our expert for today. This is a chance to hear about the prompt and the important features to look out for when we're making our own creation. Then we'll all get drawing and creating while Cathy chats to our expert, ask lots of questions that I'm sure on the front of our mind. But if you do have any questions about any of this as we go through, and especially for our special guests, please drop them into the comment box. We'll be able to see them. We're keeping an eye on the chat box in Facebook as well, and we'll make sure to drop links in there as we go. So about 6:40 today, we're going to see where everyone's up to with their artwork and give you the opportunity to ask any of your questions and about our theme, about the prompt, or about our speaker. Hi, Jenny. So let's introduce everybody. We have the wonderful Cathy from Remember the Wild, and Genevieve Lamb, who's Remember the Wild and Loki Loves Inktober's partner for 2023. Genevieve is Remember the Wild's current artist in residence, and she'll be doing our on-screen artistry for today. Cathy is from Remember the Wild. She's the director, and she'll be running logistics in the background, as well as interviewing our guest, Dr. Rowan Mott. Welcome, Rowan. And our fourth Loki Loves Inktober team member, Millie Formby from Wing Threads, unfortunately can't make it tonight, but she will be here for our special science guest for week 3, Creative Conversation session, which is only happening on Monday. So if you're not sick of us yet, you'll be sick of us by then, because we've got a lot more shorebird fun to share with you. So I'm going to pass over to Cathy, who's going to give us a little bit of housekeeping and tell us what else is going on tonight.
Cool, thanks, Vanda. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us. Before we get into everything too much, I'll just let you know that we are streaming live to Facebook, and the recording is going to live on Remember the Wild and Loki Loves Facebook pages, and on the Loki Loves website. So we love having everyone's faces on here and sharing your artworks and things, but I'd just let you know that it's being recorded just in case you want to turn your camera off or anything like that. We ask that everyone keeps themselves on mute for the moment to prevent interference from background noise. But during the evening, I'm going to invite everyone to ask questions from Rowan and from Genevieve and Vanda, our artists. So in those moments, if you click the raise hand button, that helps to make sure we don't end up with everyone speaking at the same time. But yeah, and if you don't feel comfortable chatting on screen, you're welcome to put any questions into the chat. And also we love to hear your stories about nature connection and moments you've shared with shorebirds or things you've learnt over Inktober. So please chuck anything that you want to share in the chat. And just remember, it's also it's an all ages event. We've got some students joining us across Australia through Inktober. And so, yeah, just keep that in mind with everything you say and share tonight. And yeah, I'll throw back to Vanda. I think you're going to talk to Genevieve about this week's theme.
Yes. So as we know, this week's theme is all about estuaries and the part that estuaries play in the habitat for our shorebirds. And I was really excited to dive in, especially with Genevieve, because you're working on your second diorama.
Yeah,
Beach nesting birds was amazing.
I'm so excited for this week. I'll get my screen up because I've started.
I think we've lost you, Genevieve.
You've
just gone on to mute. Sorry.
Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Hang on. I'll get this tech thing one day. All right, let's see.
It's always, doesn't matter how often you do it, it's always a play around.
I've started on, here we go, this week. So I'm getting a bit excited, but I will admit I am struggling with some of the birds because some of them are very similar to me and I have no idea how you bird watchers do it and tell them apart in the wild. It is phenomenal to me because there are so many similarities that I'm starting to notice between them. And I guess it makes sense, like what works, right? Certain bill shapes and things, they're going to be more common, but I don't know how you do it.
It's crazy, isn't it? So we've learned so much about these unique ecosystems this week and the crucial rest stops that they are for our amazing shorebirds. But it's also wonderful to remember that art has a pivotal role to play. And through Loki Loves Inktober 2023, we're highlighting shorebirds and we're using art as that powerful tool for raising awareness and sharing things that we get excited about. You know, when we share something and we love it and we learn about it and, you know, it becomes contagious. We pass that contagion on to others and they want to learn more about these things as well. So I absolutely love seeing everything coming through, and the way that you've approached your art, Genevieve, is fantastic.
Thank you. I just wanted to continue that sort of story thread, I guess, and you know, the way the prompts have been set up this year, it really lends itself to that. So I thought each week it's a perfect opportunity to create sort of one final piece at the end. so far it's okay. By week 4, I may be regretting this decision, but we're going okay so far.
Yeah, week 4 is going to be a toughie for you. I can see that. I can see that. So today we're drawing the sand-tailed sandpiper. How's everything going? How's
sharp-tailed sandpiper?
No, thank you.
This one I've struggled with. I'm looking at it and I keep looking at it. I do not understand how you tell it apart from other birds. So that's something that I want to ask Rowan when he's ready for that. From some of the other sandpipers and some of the other waders, there's so many similarities. So just sort of trying to distinguish them a little bit more. In my illustrations, I'm trying to get them in quite different poses so I know what's what and can sort of point it out. But other than that, it's a lot of fun. It's been so much learning this week for me as well, which is really good.
Oh, fantastic. I love that we're so spoilt for choice when it comes to reference photos as well. And there's some real funny poses out there. One of the ones I put up in today's post, which I've actually done, where it's kind of like it's doing a dance. It's just reached out to pick something up with its beak and the foot's out behind it. And it's just brilliant. So I'm so grateful to all of the amazing researchers and photographers out there that share their photos, because it's so much fun digging through them.
Absolutely. Totally agree. I think that's where I get a little lost every day and just scrolling endless photos.
Definitely agree with you there. Thanks so much for sharing that, Genevieve. I'm going to pass it over to Cathy now. He's going to introduce our amazing expert, and he's going to tell us so much about migratory shorebirds. Thanks, Cathy.
Thanks, Vanda. So today I'm really pleased to introduce you to Dr. Rowan Mott. Rowan is an ecologist and bird watcher with many years of experience catching and banding migratory shorebirds and some of our resident shorebirds as well. And he spent the last 2 years working, studying the foraging and breeding ecology of shorebirds and other wetland birds in the Ramsar-listed Coorong estuary, which is at the mouth of the Murray River in South Australia. So we're very excited to ask Rowan about the ecology of Australia's estuaries. And before we get started, Rowan, I'd just really like to know what it is that drew you to shorebirds in the first place.
Well, I grew up about 4 hours from the nearest coastline, so I can't say it was a passion that started at a young age. Birds in general, yes, but not shorebirds. But I guess, I am really keen to see as many different birds as I can and learn ID features for them, and get really excited when I see something new. So when I moved closer to the coast and got to go out regularly, I just kind of honed my eye there. And then from a professional sense, I think I also kind of fell into studying shorebirds, in that I was doing a PhD on seabirds at the time, ones that forage a bit further out over the ocean, and just happened to have some downtime in Broome in between two research trips, and bumped into someone at the Broome airport on my way up there, and he needed help doing some shorebird banding and counting. So in between the two trips, kind of started my research career there on shorebirds. So
yeah, awesome. Well, I'm going to let Genevieve ask you about how on earth you tell what a Sharpie is and how to draw it. But first, just make sure everyone get out their creative materials, because we're going to get making. Once Genevieve's asked Rowan a couple of things about what we should look for in the Sharpie and how to render it on the paper, I'll get stuck into some questions about the shorebirds' life history and what estuaries are like as well. So Genevieve, do you want to have a quick chat to Rowan and from an artist perspective?
Absolutely. So, basically, I've been looking at a few different sandpipers and I am very much struggling. The body shape all seems really similar to me. The tail shape, even though this is, the sharp-tailed sandpiper, I'm really struggling. What are some of the real key features that you can look at and immediately identify one of these birds?
I think, in Australia, the sharp-tailed sandpiper is one of our more attractive shorebirds in its non-breeding plumage, and it's got some really nice warm chestnutty tones on the upper parts, and that real distinct mottling there with some darker black patches and feather details as well. So there aren't too many species that you will see in Australia that are have that real chestnut color on the back. Probably the two that spring to mind, the pectoral sandpiper, which there's bird forums that people request IDs for birds all the time, and sharp-tailed sandpiper are one of the common confusion species. So things that differentiate that, the leg color is a really good one. The sharp-tailed sandpiper has kind of greenish yellow legs, whereas the pectoral sandpiper has really bright yellow legs. And then the pectoral sandpiper has a really sharp cutoff in where the black streaking on the chest goes to, whereas the sharp-tailed sandpiper, they continue down the flanks and under the wings all the way to the undertail. Whereas the pectoral sandpiper is a pure white colour under its tail feathers there. And then the base of the bill of the two species is slightly different colour as well. There's not really much of a yellow showing through at the base of the sharp-tailed sandpiper bill. And one of the really things that I think makes the sharp-tailed sandpiper really such a pretty bird is it has a really obvious little white eye ring around its eye, so it really sets its eye out and gives it a really cute facial look, I think.
Okay, so I did fall into a bit of a trap there in that when I was looking for reference photos, I did stumble across a few pectoral sandpipers as well, and it took me a minute to realise that I was looking at the wrong birds essentially. But no, that's great. So a lot in the colouring, which will help me out a lot, especially I'm doing one from underneath, so I'll be able to sort of focus on that underbelly and the not pure white underbelly. Okay.
I think that is a really difficult one that even experienced bird watchers struggle with. So I wouldn't feel too silly that you were looking at the wrong thing, because the general shape is fairly close as well. It's subtle differences, but I think if you drew a pectoral sandpiper, it's probably most people aren't going to draw the wrong thing, I think.
All right, excellent. That clears up everything for me. That's most of my questions done. Just how do I tell?
Awesome stuff. I have to say I spend a lot of time looking through a scope asking Rowan if this is a pectoral sandpiper or a sharpie out of a flock of hundreds of sharpies and maybe one peck. So I think that I actually am I wonder how many shorebird lovers are actually really good artists, because the amount of detail that you have to take in when you look at a shorebird to try and separate some of them, it really is probably the level of detail an artist is taking. And that's one of the reasons we love doing Inktober, is because a lot of the people that join from a science background or from an art background, and both of us learn different ways of seeing, of viewing something in nature and understand it in a new way. So thanks for that, Rowan. I'm going to ask you a few questions now just about our theme this week. I'll let you know. So we've been looking at estuaries, and we're kind of looking at estuaries as the feeding ground and the stocking up ground of all of our migratory shorebirds, as well as the home of some of our important resident shorebirds. And some of the things we've been looking at this week have been a couple of the migratory birds. So the common greenshank was one of them, the whimbrel and the sharpie, which we're doing today. And then a couple of local species like we're going to look at the red-necked avocet tomorrow. And then we've also looked at a couple of habitat features and food things. So we were looking at chironomids earlier in the week, which are the little tiny kind of like mosquito larvae looking things that so many shorebirds feed on, as well as beaded glasswort, which is an important habitat of a lot of estuaries, particularly the salt marshes that hang around the mouths of estuaries and things like that. And love to, I guess this is something that we've struggled to define a bit, is what is an estuary and why are they important as a place for wetland birds?
Yeah, well, I guess an estuary is just sort of where a freshwater river or stream system meets the ocean, and typically, yeah, they'll have a bit of a cove, sort of a protected area that's not open to the ocean. So there's a gradual mixing of the fresh and the salt water there. So that creates a unique kind of set of conditions the further upstream up the estuary you get, and a kind of a gradient of different types of habitat that are available to birds. And yeah, I guess they're really important habitat for shorebirds for a few reasons. The water flowing down the streams is often carrying a lot of nutrients, all stuff that's washed in off the floodplain and from further up the catchment. A lot of organic matter and things that filter feeding, worms and mollusks and things that shorebirds feed on. They'll be taking those nutrients out of the water as it passes through the estuary. They also are typically sheltered from wave action to a large extent. It gives a chance for the nutrients and sediment that are coming down the river to actually drop out of the water column and settle on the floor of the estuary, and kind of creating typically quite a rich muddy environment for birds to probe into and forage on, and also that nutrients supports plant communities like seagrass meadows and often mangroves as well, which then acts as kind of an important nursery habitat for small fish and crustaceans, which things like the common greenshank include a lot of small fish in their diet. So as well as invertebrates, it's also fish are benefited there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one of the most amazing estuaries in Australia is the Coorong. And it's funny because I think that a lot of Australians don't actually know very much about the Coorong at all, but it is really, really important wetland at the mouth of the mighty Murray. Love to hear a little bit about what you were doing there and what you learnt about the estuary ecosystems there.
I spent just over 2 years working in the Coorong, and it's a fascinating system. The Murray comes down to the coast in southeast South Australia. There's a couple of freshwater lakes, Lake Alexandrina and Lake Albert, that the Murray flows into, and then the water passes out of that into the Murray estuary, and off the side of the estuary are these two really long, thin lagoons that stretch for over 100 kilometres parallel to the coastline, and they don't have an outflow at the southern end of them. So water that comes in at the north, up near the Murray mouth, passes down into the North Lagoon, and then through a narrow constriction between the North and South Lagoon into the South Lagoon. It can be trapped there for a very long time and exposing it to evaporation, which causes the concentration of the salts in the water to increase. So it's kind of sort of reverse to most estuaries in that, the further away from the mouth of most estuaries you get, the more fresh water it gets. But in the Coorong, the further away you get, the more salty it gets, and it can be irregularly. It's 4 times saltier than seawater at the southern end of the South Lagoon. So yeah, really strong gradient, really different conditions for birds in that lagoon system. And yeah, so up near the mouth, you get things that are kind of typical of many estuaries, like your godwits and your curly sandpipers and things that kind of probe into muddy sediments. And then right down in the south, most of the invertebrates that have dropped out of the system because it's too salty for them, and it's chironomids and brine shrimp and things like that are the dominant food source. So down there you get the red-necked avocets and banded stilts in some years, and but then other shorebirds like red-necked stints and that walking along the shoreline picking up chironomids as well. The 2 years that I spent there were essentially trying to figure out what the habitat requirements of the birds using that estuary are, so that the managers of the system can replicate those conditions and really hone their management regime to provide good quality habitat for a range of birds there.
Yeah, wow. And so what were the kind of shorebird species that you were looking at there, and what kind of things did you learn about them?
So my primary focus was tracking, I tracked 3 waterbird species there: the sharp-tailed sandpiper, the red-necked avocet, and pelicans. And each of them, as I kind of touched on before, has a very distinct way that they use the Coorong. The sharp-tailed sandpipers seem to really reside in a certain section of the Coorong, like that's at the individual level. An individual will typically not move more than about 5 to 10k from in that little kind of a home range area for the whole of the summer period that it's here. Whereas the avocets, they'll go from one end of the Coorong to the other over the course of a couple of days. Just seem really much more mobile, really I guess because they're taking stuff out of the water column, perhaps the prey might move around a lot more than stuff that's sort of on or in the mud. I think that they seem to need to move around a bit more to meet their resource requirements. And then the pelicans were quite similar to the sharpies in that they seem to set up a bit of a home range and stay in quite a localized area for much of the time we were tracking them. Yeah.
And we've been reading earlier in the week, today, that the sharpies seem, when they come down from the high Arctic, which is where they spend their breeding season, they come down here and they kind of fan out across Australia wherever the conditions are good. And also, I know from some of your work that avocets are able to find really good conditions hundreds of kilometres away as well. So how do they know where the going is good?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess in the case of the sharpies, they are traveling across the country on their migration to get here. So maybe they just encounter it as they're kind of completing their usual migration route. But the avocets seem to have some knowledge of when it's rained, and so the Coorong kind of functions as a really important drought refuge for a lot of water birds, because it is a coastal estuary. It always has some seawater going into it, some river water going into it. So even at the end of the millennium drought, say, there was still water in it, whereas much of the wetlands in Central Australia were dry. There were counts done in the around about the 2009 period that suggested that 90% of the water birds in the Murray-Darling Basin were all in the Coorong.
Wow.
So yeah, obviously birds can move to the Coorong when conditions elsewhere aren't available, and then they move out again once conditions become more favourable. And so at the start of 2021, we had 10 red-necked avocets that we were actively tracking at the time. I just got back from my Christmas break, and there was a big rain event in Central Australia in early January, and within days, all 10 of those avocets had left the Coorong, even though the rain event was hundreds to thousands of kilometres away. They somehow knew that conditions had changed inland, and they just went. So it's not something that I think anyone has a good understanding of yet. I think they don't leave for every rain event. That's what my tracking has suggested, that there are other rain events that happened while we were tracking birds that didn't result in avocets leaving the Coorong. But that one was, I guess, maybe particularly big. And so some people think that they might hear the sound of thunder or sense atmospheric pressure changes. Maybe they smell the smell of like wetlands becoming wet again. No one's quite sure how they do it, but hopefully with more tracking and more pieces of information linking into the puzzle, we might be able to crack it one day.
It's seriously amazing to think of knowing something's happening hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, but being able to track them is amazing. What do you, because we've tracked migratory shorebirds going from Australia along their migratory route to the Arctic. What kinds of instruments do we put on birds? Because they're really small. What types of things do we put on birds to track them as they fly around our world?
So I guess there's two main types that have been used to unlock most of the migration secrets. The first of them is called a geolocator, and it's got a little light sensor on it, and it essentially measures what time the sun rises and sets each day at the point that the bird is at, and so they're stuck usually on a leg band on the leg of the bird, so by measuring the time of sunrise and sunset, that allows you to figure out how many hours of sunlight there were in the day, which kind of tells you whether you're close to the equator, where it's always sunrise at 6 and sets at 6 p.m. sort of thing, or whether you're close to one of the poles, where you might get like down in the Antarctic 24 hours sun in summer sort of thing. So and then the time of day that happened also tells you how far east or west there is. So those are pretty remarkable little devices, and they weigh like less than a gram, those things. So, and they can record for like multiple years. That they very low battery consumption and a very small battery. So they've been instrumental in a lot of shorebird research. But the catch is, and catch is a play on words there, you have to catch that bird back again to get the data off it. They don't transmit anywhere. So the kind of electronic miniaturization revolution that's happened now means there are satellite tags that transmit data to satellites. They have a solar panel and can kind of function long term using solar energy, and that they're now weighing just under 2 grams. So for getting down to some of the medium-sized shorebirds that they're able to carry that weight. So yeah, that's what we were using in the Coorong.
That's really cool. It's amazing. What else do I want to ask you? Maybe what was some of the, sorry, Vanda, was someone else going to say something, or did I just cut? No.
You didn't cut me off. I was just going to say, like, my jaw just flew open. Or I didn't realise you had to recatch all the birds to reband them.
Yeah. So
make the assumption that, well, they must be transmitting.
No, yeah. The ones that transmit cost like thousands, and the ones that you have to catch back are a couple of hundred. So yeah,
Huge difference.
A big difference. But thankfully, most of the shorebirds are kind of quite faithful to a non-breeding ground and a breeding ground as well, actually. So yeah, it gives you 2 points on their migration cycle where you can potentially catch them back. And the way that here in Australia, because they're not at a nest where you can kind of set a little cage trap around their nest, the way that most shorebirds are caught is with cannon nets. So that's 2 big cannons firing something that drags a net over a whole flock. So the approach there is, watch a flock until you can see one or hopefully multiple birds with this special leg tag on them, and just hope for the best and hope you catch as many as possible.
That's amazing. Thanks for that. That was going to be my next question. How the hell do you identify them? Like, it's
So shorebirds are different to most other birds in that they're almost always occupying an open habitat, like an open mud flat, or so you can usually see their legs, and that means that that lots of research has been done using leg flags. So little coloured bits of plastic with a flag coming out the back, a stiff plastic flag. And in the early days they were just that coloured flags, but since then they've developed into actually having little alphanumeric codes on them that you can read from with a telescope from 50, 100 meters away. Say you'll be able to read which thing it is, and each bird then will get its own unique alphanumeric code and color combination. And some other projects just put on a bunch of uniquely sequenced colored bands as well, that mean you can identify the individual based on which leg the bands are on, which sequence the colors on, and things like that. So they've been a really important tool for studying the movements of individual birds.
And that's one of the really cool things for bird watchers and citizen scientists, is that some of these birds, if they've got that, like a number on their leg and the color that identifies just them, then we can, when they do return to our shores, we've got an opportunity to see that bird year after year, and even to with friends all along the flyway, to watch that bird over successive breeding attempts, and when it visits the yellow sea or different places. And there's been a few birds that have got particularly long distance flying records, and whenever they turn up, it's always really exciting for people to go and spot them with the scope.
That's so cool. So is there a site, if we see a really cool shorebird somewhere and we manage to get a photo or read the band, what's the best way of looking up the band to find out some more information?
So all bands put on in Australia are managed by the Australian Bird and Bat Banding Scheme. So you can report a combination to them, and there's also a it's run by I think Marcel Claassen out of Deakin Uni's putting together a really easy, user-friendly web portal to report shorebird leg flags in particular. So yeah, that I can't think of what that's called off the top of my head, but
I'm just having a search for you now, Rowan, and I'll pop it into the Facebook page.
Yeah,
Comments once I find it.
I've just popped the ABBBS link in the chat, and yeah, if you see a bird, like any bird that you spot that has tags, you can report it there. But also, it's really helpful if you ever come across, and it sounds a bit sad, but if you ever come across a dead bird that has tags, that is the best time to report that tag, because that will show the end point for that animal, and because that tag and the bird might disappear or get eaten pretty quickly, reporting that is really helpful for scientists to know where that bird is and what has happened to it. Yeah. Rowan, we're going to have a look at some people's artworks in a second, but one of the things that's always important to ask is what things might be threatening our shorebirds in estuary systems and maybe in wetlands more generally across Australia, and what we can do to contribute to shorebird conservation and the conservation of these environments.
Yeah, so I guess one of the things that's threatened some estuaries in Australia is changing regimes of water and nutrients coming down the river systems. So the Peel Harvey estuary in southwest WA a few decades ago had really bad troubles with nutrification, I think because more fertilizers and things going into agriculture, and clearing of native vegetation along those waterways meant that lots of pollution was ending up in the estuary, and that is also happening a bit in the Coorong. There's often algal blooms in summer there that kind of result in really high algal production, which then dies as and sinks to the bottom, and as it breaks down, it is kind of like an anoxic decomposition process, which results in this really sulfidic black ooze on the bottom of the Coorong, which is not really any good for any of the because there's no oxygen at all in it. None of the invertebrates that usually burrow into sediments and things, that they can't survive in it. So too many nutrients entering the estuary is a bad thing that's affecting a few of Australia's estuaries. There's also things like coastal reclamation is a really big problem.
What does that mean? What's reclamation mean?
So the kind of the wet dry land kind of stuff on the fringes, like lots of salt marsh. That humans kind of draining that to make more, to reclaim more dry land and build like ports or housing developments and things like that. That's another thing that's having a bit of an effect on in a few places around the world, and that's probably been something that's happened long term as well, like over centuries, I think, because often these estuaries are sheltered, so they make great places to more ships and like put ports and things like that, and they do have a river there, so that was once a transportation network. So getting it to a port on the edge of the sea would have been really beneficial when river transit was a major freight route and things. So probably historically a lot of reclamation would have taken place.
Yeah, yep. And so I guess some of the ways that we can care for our shorebirds and estuaries and wetlands and things then is just showing people how much we love them, like by visiting them, so that they're less of a land grab opportunity and more of a tourism opportunity, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so. And like there's getting more and more appreciation about how much salt marshes and seagrass meadows and mangroves, what their ecosystem services are for humans in terms of like water filtration and carbon storage. So yeah, just I think if you can kind of make your friends just publicize the huge value that they have to human society. They're also nursery grounds for fish that go on to be commercially fish species and recreationally fish species. So there are kind of really, really good human centric reasons why we should be conserving estuaries as well. So if you think that that's going to be more of a draw card for policymakers and those making big decisions about where coastal developments are going to happen, emphasize those things. But deep down, it's the shorebirds for us that really, really important.
Yeah, thanks, Rowan. That's awesome. Well, I reckon let's get everyone back up on screen and we'll have a look at a few people's drawings. Before I get anyone to chat, I'll just let you know that if you are in Melbourne, you've got an opportunity tomorrow to visit one of Victoria's great wetlands and estuaries, which is in Hobson's Bay around the Cheetham wetlands. That's another Ramsar-listed site that is absolutely gorgeous and full of shorebirds. And Hobson's Bay Wetlands Centre is tomorrow running their annual Wings to Wellness Day, which is a marvellous day. You'll get to do art sessions with shorebirds. You'll get to go on bird walks and actually see some of the shorebirds. They run it every year to celebrate World Migratory Bird Day and World Mental Health Day. So Mental Health Day was earlier this week, and we know that connecting with nature and getting out and going on walks and experiencing blue and green spaces is really good for our mental health. And tomorrow's World Migratory Bird Day, and a lot of the birds that visit the Cheetham wetlands are our migratory shorebird species. So if you can get to it, I'm kicking myself that I can't because I'm out in the country tomorrow, but it's a really beautiful wetlands centre, and they run an incredible open day. So definitely encourage everyone to get down and learn a little bit more about shorebirds and estuaries there tomorrow. Who would like to share their artwork? Anybody, any takers?
I'll have a giggle. I don't know if
Vanda.
I can.
Oh, Vanda, that's
Here you go.
beautiful. You've been sneaky and drawn too.
No, I drew that one yesterday.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how. It's worked out perfectly. I think it's the best bird drawing I've ever done.
Hang on, Dad, you need to go on. That's my dad, not quite muted there. So you've just shown us tomorrow's beautiful avocet that you've drawn, and another estuary shorebird, and then what have we got? The Sharpie.
Piper. Yeah, the Sharpie, and it's such a cool pose. It's a really hard one to figure it out, all the bits out and the feathers. But
that is great.
Yeah,
looking amazing.
It's gorgeous.
Beautiful. Okay, I know what's happening down on the Cavallo's screen. If you turn off your blur your background thing, which is in the next to the stop video sign, you should have the blur my background option. Who else is good? Does anybody else want
Can you talk to someone else while we sort that out?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no worries.
Tina, we'd love to see what you've drawn.
No.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Oh, Tina, that's gorgeous.
Stunning.
you want to tell us a little bit about it?
You just need to take yourself off mute, darling.
Sure. I don't know. It's just a bit of watercolor. Sorry, the light's not really helping. Yeah, and then I started another one.
They are gorgeous.
Oh,
You've really got
wow.
the plumage in that one.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
so beautiful.
I really think that the Sharpies, when you do look up close, each of their feathers is just edged in a little bit of off-white, and so every feather really stands out. And I really think they are very simple grey and brown and white bird, but they are just gorgeous. You've still got a blurred screen there, Cavallos. Wendy, would you like to show us yours?
Sorry, my computer ran out of battery and I had to plug in.
Oh, well done.
Quick.
Oh, look at him.
Oh, that's gorgeous. That's
Wow.
the reference from today's prompt. And those
Fantastic.
wing feathers.
Spot on.
Thank you. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Oh, good. That's
Thanks
so
for all the
good.
information too. It's great.
Really glad. I mean, this is all I've managed to do I'm not good at multitasking. I'm going to go back to that later because
Well,
I
you've
want
got that shape though, coming down
Yeah.
from the head to the neck and the wing.
Yeah, you know what? I'm really enjoying this time, this Inktober, challenging myself with different poses with shorebirds because I do find them really difficult with their arms out, their wings outstretched and things. And yeah, I'm really enjoying trying different, tackling the different prompts every day.
I always am fascinated by how long their wings are. Like for such small birds,
Hold
the
them
wing
up.
span is so incredible.
It really is. And they have to, I guess they use them to get all the way up to the North Pole.
Yep,
and back
very
again.
powerful wings. It's, always amazing.
Rowan, I don't suppose you managed to do anything in that.
No, I didn't draw anything, unfortunately.
We'll have a drawing session later.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have to share it in your stories later. I want to see what the two of you come up with.
Cavallos, would you like to share yours? You have to unmute now.
So many instructions.
So first of all, sorry for both muting, blurring, and so on.
Nothing to apologise for.
Second of all, I've got to say, Vanda, thank you so much for you and for Inktober for Remember the Wild in this opportunity, because I have to say I haven't ever drawn a picture for 30 years since. First of all, I've got a disclosure to make. I'm Cathy's dad. And Cathy, Bronwyn is Cathy's mum, and Bronwyn and I took Cathy and our other kids to the Bay of Fires in Tasmania 30 years ago, when Cathy was about 4. No disclosure.
Her young.
Thanks, guys.
And I drew a picture. I haven't drawn a picture since.
Wow.
Wow, that's amazing, Andrew.
I have been inspired by the whole Inktober thing, and in fact, Bronwyn drawing all these pictures, and eventually when she said, Cathy is doing something tonight, I better do something. So we're watching it, and I drew my first picture in 30 years. It's not very good, but I'm very proud of it. I'll just show you.
Oh, that is awesome.
So that's a Sharpie standing by the beach in the water as the current's going past.
Beautiful.
And I've got to say that I've been very lucky to have several sessions with Dr. Mott, one-on-one, where he's taught me about shorebirds, and I've been able to see shorebirds through binoculars and monoculars and so on. And what's really amazing is, and this is another disclosure, and it's not for advertising purposes, but I am a surgeon, and this is my card. My card is based on sharp-tailed sandpipers, and I've just loved them since I was a kid. They're hard workers. They travel 10,000 kilometers from Siberia to Australia every year just to get a meal and so on. And they're just quiet achievers that work really hard in the background. They're so small, no one knows what they are. They're so indistinct from other birds that no one can tell them from other birds, but they work hard and they do their job.
Yeah, they are fantastic birds.
Anyway, as a second option, my wife and Cathy's mother, disclosure, has been drawing as well, and she'll show her bird.
Yeah, let's see what you've got, Bronwyn. Your drawings are really coming along.
Oh, that's beautiful too.
Wow.
Let me just pin
I
that
was
sec so
very
I can have a
scared of
look.
trying to draw a bird in flight.
Yeah, you've got it.
A very scary thing, so I'm quite pleased with that.
Yeah,
That is amazing, Bronwyn.
Yeah. Stunning.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go.
what I'm
And the
loving.
time placement is spot on.
So I just wanted to say thank you guys and team for everything that you've done. We're going to mute and turn our video off now.
I'm not turning everything. Oh, you can mute.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Lovely
much.
to see.
Absolute pleasure you've joined us, and thanks so much for all of those wonderful words and sharing those stories with us, Andrew.
Yeah. What I'm loving from all of these pictures, and I think maybe it's partly because we did choose to do shorebirds this year, is the attention to plumage detail, because that's really the only way to tell some of these things apart. And so when I see that tawny crown on everyone's drawings, which is one of my favorite things about the Sharpie, and yeah, just these little features that probably lots of people don't look at, but that's a real thrill for me. Genevieve, yours is looking stunning there, as always.
Missing its tail, but I'll get it done. I'll get it done by tonight. I kept getting distracted by all of the amazing information. I just every 5 minutes I found that I had stopped drawing and I had to be like, come on, focus, get back to it.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult to multitask, and I can't believe how quickly all of you draw in these little 1 hour sessions. I mean, you don't even get to start until halfway through, so impressive. And anybody who's joining us today or watching on Facebook, definitely check out on Instagram the hashtag Loki Loves Inktober 2023. We'll pop it in the chat because people from all around the world have been joining in our Inktober this year, and the drawings are incredible. And what we really love is when people share something they've learned about the prompt for that day and share that in their stories as well. And then if you're not on Instagram, you can also look at, we've got this community gallery that you can share your artworks on as well. So I'll just pop that in the chat now. But maybe Vanda, just seeing where we're up to, might throw over to you to, if you've got some announcements before we finish up. Oh my gosh, I've run us over. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, I think we're all too busy drawing and chatting to concentrate on the time. So sorry, everybody, but we won't be too much longer. A couple of little announcements. So yes, we've got so many more prompts coming to us. We've got 31 days, so there's a prompt for every day this month. So if you'd like to join in, even though we're almost halfway through, you are still more than welcome to join us. You can catch up, you can pick up where you wanted to, you can even play with the prompts and do them in different ways. It's your world to get creative in and have fun, and we'll be so proud if you'd like to join us. Also, we've got Monday's webinar with Millie Formby from Wing Threads, which I'm super excited about. I'll share, I think we're all going to be sharing the link to that later on tonight and tomorrow, so you'll be able to join us for that session. That's going to be a lot of fun. She's going to draw as well. She's a fantastic artist, and if you've been following the prompts, you'll see I'm putting in some of her shorebird images and her drawings. They're so much fun. Don't forget to upload your artworks on social media, as Cathy said, to the hashtag Loki Loves Inktober 2023. It's been amazing seeing everybody's art come through. And I'd just like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. It has been absolutely amazing. I've had so much fun. And Rowan, thank you for sharing all of your experience and knowledge. I have got one more question if we've got time, actually. And that is for anybody who's interested in becoming a shorebird expert or scientist, and working in your field, what advice would you give them?
I guess, yeah, there's really great volunteer opportunities out there. Like the Victorian Wader Studies group does regular catches of shorebirds throughout the summer. And there's, yeah, stuff in South Australia as well. The Australasian Wader Study group as well. So, yeah, I think just probably volunteering on those sort of citizen science projects where they're catching birds, and they need a lot of people, because when a cannon net catches, sometimes they get many hundreds of birds in a single catch, and need lots of hands to get them out of the nets and everything and processed quickly. So yeah, they're really great ways to learn the skills, and they're really accommodating of newbies and yeah, people who have not even any shorebird ID experience as well. Like, yeah, it's a great way to learn when you see them up close in the hand. Yeah, I'd say that's the best way.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for that. That reminds me as well. I mean, I everything I know about shorebirds can probably fit on my thumb now. I've learned so much this month. But what was wonderful, I went to the Edith Vale Bird Hide, which is the local bird hide to me. And I walked in with no knowledge, no idea what was going on. And everybody was so welcome. It's a beautiful community and everyone's so open to sharing. And a nice little segue to that is I've actually organised a visit to the bird hide tomorrow. The wonderful Robin Carey, who is the vice president, will be joining us there. And we're going to have the bird hide to ourselves for an hour and a half, essentially. So we'll get to have a nice little talk. There's lots of resources and binoculars and everything there. And then we'll get about an hour to have a sketch as well before the doors open to the public. So that is a wonderful way of celebrating World Migratory Bird Day. And if there's anybody that would like to join us, we've still got 2 or 3 spots available. So shoot me a DM, a message, write in the comments, and I'll get back to you tonight with details. We're meeting at 11:30 in Edith Vale. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Thanks, Vanda. That's awesome. That's going to be such a great event too.
It's going to be lots and lots of fun.
Alrighty.
Looking forward to it. Hopefully we see lots of birds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming, everyone. I hope you can make it on Monday for another session. It's been so much fun, and I love that you come along and we draw and just chat, and it kind of feels really cozy, even though it's online and live.
Yeah.
It's really cozy. So I hope everybody's enjoyed it. And if you have any questions when you're watching this in the replay, please do tag us replay below so we know you're watching. Put them down, and if me and Cathy don't know how to answer them, we'll get hold of Dr. Rowan Mott, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to help us out with some answers.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. Such a
Thanks
thrill.
so much, everyone. Have a fantastic night and a fun weekend.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Yep, it doesn't want to